In today's video, I'll be going over the details and reasons why this Titan T3 power rack that is a 2x3 rack might be the right pick for your home gym. In addition, I'll go over some of the advantages that 2x3 racks have over 3x3 racks, and I'll also go over some of the aspects of this rack that I don't like. Right off the bat, it's fair to say that these T3 power racks fall in the budget category. You can pick up the main rack and weight plate storage extension for right around $920. The comparable R6 Infinity rack series from Rogue would run you 1.9x more at $1,780. So this price difference begs the question, is the Titan rack worth it, or will you always wish you went for a higher end alternative? Let's cover the specs quickly, which will lead into some of the key takeaways I have about this rack. This imported rack utilizes attachments with 16mm pins, and the holes are around 17.5mm in diameter. They are spaced 50mm apart up top and 25mm apart at the bottom. The tighter west side hole spacing on the bottom of the rack is really nice when you are fine-tuning your hook heights and your safeties while benching. 2x3 racks that are imported are actually smaller than the American counterparts, measuring at around 50mm by 75mm. The total depth of the uprights is around 56.5 inches, with 24 inches of working area between the uprights. The total height of the rack is around 91 inches. You have around 13 inches between a racked bar and the plates on the storage at the back of the rack, which in my opinion is probably too much. I feel like having this back section a little smaller would have been a more compact design. However, if you like to have that extra space for spotters to stand, it could be an advantage. The outside width of the uprights is 45 7/8 of an inch, and the inside width is around 42 inches. This brings me to one of the first advantages of the 2x3 rack, that 2 inches in width of the uprights will allow you just a little bit more space when racking and unracking your weights. This rack provides about 3 inches on each side between the J-cups and the collars, and about 4 3/4 of an inch between the uprights and the plates. A 3-inch upright rack like the Rep 5000 series has an outside width of 47 inches and an inside width of 41 inches. This allows for about the same amount of play between the weights and the uprights, but reduces your inside width slightly. The Rogue Monster Series racks has an outside width of 49 inches, which takes up an additional 1.5 inches on both sides. This will increase the chances of you hitting your uprights with a bad re-rack or a very large stepped walkout on your squats. Now, after looking at the vast selection of 3x3 racks in the market, you may ask yourself, is a 2x3 rack strong enough for your needs? And the answer to that is likely 100% yes. You'll see a plethora of classic Westside barbell videos with them using 2x2 racks, and if a 2x2 rack is good enough for Dan Green to front squat 575 pounds for a triple, I'm sure we won't be overextending the capacities of these 2x3 racks anytime soon. Where 3x3 racks tend to shine is when it comes to attachments. The holes are not only on the front of the uprights, but also on the sides. And since they are at the top of their product line, R&D happens faster on the 3x3 racks. In addition to normal attachments, you'll see premium upgrades like functional trainers and belt squats coming out for a 3x3 rack sooner. And also, if there are any issues with version 1, you'll see version 2 and version 3 much faster on the 3x3s. This is not to say that 2x3 racks don't have any attachments. Many of the most popular attachments will be available for 2x3 racks like spotter arms, strap safeties, and dip bars. I even have monolift attachments on my rack, which I would consider to be a more exotic accessory. So make sure when you're looking at your rack, you go through the attachment section of the website so that you're not surprised on attachments you do or don't have access to. Speaking of attachments, I have been fairly satisfied with the Titan attachments for this rack. I feel like in 2020, their attachments were subpar, and over the years, they've gotten better. So for instance, the monolift attachments that I bought are a much better build quality than say the original strap safeties that I purchased with the rack. The Titan dip horn attachment works just fine, and the strap safety hooks are also decent. I did, however, modify the strap safeties slightly to have a crowned pin for easier insertion into the rack. In addition, I welded on some chains under the straps because I am paranoid, and then swapped out the straps because I wanted them to be shorter than the ones that came with the original set. The monolift attachments work fine and are built very beefy. The J-cups that came with the rack in 2020 were so bad that I threw them away and replaced them with the Rogue Infinity Series J-cups. I can't speak to Titan's 2025 cups, but I can assume that they've gotten better than the originals. Since imported racks are slightly smaller than the Imperial racks made in the United States, all of your Rogue accessories will fit on the Titan rack. Note that they will likely be a little loose, which could cause an issue on specific attachments. Since the hole spacing is also different, you won't be able to use a double pinned attachment from Rogue on this rack. If you don't plan on using that bottom pin anyway, it's not an issue, but if you do want to have the bottom pin, here is an example of the Rogue spotter arms, for instance, not lining up. While these may not be classified as an attachment, I found that the pull-up bars are adequate. The multi-grip pull-up bar does give you more height, and I like the powder coat on it much better than the slick paint on the bars that came with the rack. On the topic of coatings, I think it's safe to say that Titan is not your premium option when it comes to rack upright coatings. I see some pitting under this, I guess it's paint, and I also see chipping. I had chipping from day one on this rack, so you're not getting a premium option when it comes to coatings. That being said, most gym users, especially those on a budget, probably won't notice this or won't care, and it will be adequate for their needs. You also won't get cool laser cut numbers on this rack as you would on an upper end Rogue or Rep rack, but a gray Sharpie can do just fine on giving you some spots to put your J-cups. On a scale from 1 to 10, I would say the fit and finish comes in at about a 5 or a 6. In 2020, when I ordered this rack, I had some squareness issues between the uprights and the mounting feet, but to Titan's credit, they actually sent me new uprights in the mail. I bolted this rack down to a plywood platform, so rocking or any unevenness was never really noticed, but I could imagine it would not sit 100% level on smooth concrete. So with all of that in mind, I'm going to summarize my pros and cons of this rack and give y'all my final take. First up in the pros category is going to be the price. With that additional savings that you have on buying a cheaper rack like this, you can purchase a high quality barbell or some additional plates. For many who are building their first home gym, the better bar and the plates will far outweigh the extra frills of a high-end rack. The second point in the pro category is that this rack will be strong enough to handle anything you throw at it. And the west side hole spacing on the bottom half of the rack is pretty convenient. Another point for the pros category here is that the most common attachments that trainees like to use are available for 2x3 racks. You'll only find yourself getting in trouble looking for more exotic accessories, and if that's the case, you probably should just get a 3x3 rack. And the last little point I'll put in the pro category is that the extra length on the back of this rack for the weight storage at 24 inches is a lot of room, and if you're looking to do a lot of spotting of other people, it gives you a lot of room back there to stand and spot somebody. Now, that can also be in the cons category if you normally work out by yourself and you don't find yourself using that additional space back there for spotting. Now we're going to go over the cons of this rack, and number one is going to be fit and finish and build quality. With Titan racks, you'll see some questionable welds here and there, and every once in a while you may have a fitment issue or something that is not quite square. I think a Titan has gotten better over the years, so hopefully these issues will have been diminished. Also, things like premium coatings and laser cut numbers will not be seen on a 2x3 rack like this from Titan. As a final thought, I think it's worth saying that this rack has served me well over the last 5 years. I do plan on upgrading to either the Rep Aries 2.0 or the Rogue FM series racks, which are both 3x3 racks with 1-inch holes, because A, I like fancy gym equipment, and B, I would very much like access to a functional trainer. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. I'll be working over the next few years to build up this channel's inventory of videos and reviews, and your early support would be much appreciated. Until next time, train hard.